Hello, you're listening to the Neurodissent podcast. I'm Nic and I'm a neurodivergent scholar, and with me is Molly Friesenborg.
Hi, I'm Molly. I'm a nonprofit professional and not a demon professional, but happen to be married to this guy, so gonna hear what we have to talk about today.
You don't sound excited.
I thought I did. I was going for exciting.
Oh, okay.
I never quite know how to introduce myself. Like, it's not, quite on brand in that sense. So I'm always like, I don't know, who am I that's relevant to anyone listening? So
let's talk about some demons. I mean, that's what we've been talking about this season. So
yeah,
far.
and I'm gonna have to tell listeners, like, we did just get a puppy, and she's not gonna sit still, but she also is not gonna sit in any other room quietly. So if you hear a little background scratchy, that's what you got.
So this season, we have been discussing the history of demons, exorcists, and other similar phenomena. And why, you might ask? I thought this was a mental health podcast. What in the world are you doing?
I ask it every week.
So I'm interested in exploring the possibility that things like exorcisms have important mental health contributions. So what I'm suggesting is that ancient and even contemporary beliefs in demons are much more rational than some modern listeners want to believe.
Yeah. So it's like we react to that word demon and not the fact that all we're really saying is there's something going on with us that we need to change.
Yeah, and maybe there's a metaphysical argument there about, a thing called a demon, but I think potentially that's less crucial than
like the ceremonies, the community support, and the people who are supporting folks going through those things.
Right. And potentially even just the collective belief in these entities.
How we collectively view it as an external.
Like if we collectively believe that it's real, then we behave and think, speak, and act in particular ways.
Yeah. But that also really spoke to me though, that not only believe it's real as in believe someone's struggling with mental health issues, right?
Right.
But it's different to say we believe that there's an external force acting upon you.
Right. Exactly.
And that really changes the framing of it.
Right. Anyway, how would you summarize our first 5 episodes, Molly?
I think less a summary, more the theme, if I reflect on the last episodes, right?
Okay.
Is that in what we were just talking about, right? It's about how and whom you go to when you go in these struggles, and that's where it's the mental health tie-in. Mm-hmm. I just keep coming back to the religious part being the tie-in, because for centuries religion was the main mental health
right.
component, and that's really interesting. And I think that it kind of gets lost in our current mental health conversation, in the sense that we talk about the decline of folks attending church, right, and the rise of mental health problems. But I don't know, and I'm not even trying, this is just me talking, to connect the two, so much as saying, I have been reflecting a lot lately on, how the church has served that purpose, and how do we form communities that serve that kind of purpose, mm-hmm. that aren't necessarily singularly religious-based.
Yeah, well, I think that if we're thinking about Christian churches, then there's evidence to suggest both directions, right?
Yeah,
that they're both,
absolutely.
That they're both
culprit and the
and I think I was hoping that we would get that from diving into Christianity a little bit more deeply, because if we just listen to, say, what the Gospel of Mark says about Jesus Christ, then we don't get the whole story that clearly comes out. Well, Faye doesn't even want to hear the whole story.
I know, right? Faye's this was supposed to be a summary, Molly. What random tangent did you go on? But I think that's kind of where I am, and then skipping over towards the Heian,
yeah.
Thank you.
There you go.
The Heian time period we talked about, that was, I think, really interesting, and how, again, you saw some of that community coming togetherness, and I don't know, I think, quite enough to know some of, the religious, implications of that, as I am, more knowledgeable about the Western culture and that, but very interesting. So I'm excited that we are going to talk about another Asian cultural aspect of this today, because I think that really adds to that idea of who do we go to for healthcare,
Yeah, so exactly. We are going to talk about thunder magic today.
Yay!
And what do you think
Also, can we just say, Does thunder magic not sound like the most exciting title so far?
Well, I'm actually going to ask you, Molly, what do you think of when you hear thunder magic?
I mean, honestly, thunder magic, like that's what I think of. I don't like. Yes, like there's thunder
we make
clashing, and I'm making magic occur.
So
with
lightning, you're saying too.
I mean, yeah, probably there's lightning. Honestly, I'm just thinking about the sound because I'm probably like, I just stormed in the doors of somewhere. I think in this where the thunder's crashing behind me and I'm doing magic.
Yeah. So through my research of it, I've come to understand that thunder magic is perhaps less spectacular than it might seem at first.
But my crashing through the doors with the thunder behind me magic time.
I mean, I'm not going to say that that's not somewhat part of it in the sense that that's maybe the legends.
Okay.
But I hope to convince you that it's still kind of powerful in its own way.
So what I got from that is think less high fantasy and more like nature witchery.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're doing more of like a in tune with the earth
and ourselves
and
the spirit worlds.
Oh, okay. So there's a lot of I'm starting to see our mental health tie-in. It's a lot about being attuned with ourselves too. Okay, let's go.
All right. So thunder magic. What is this? Well, it's.
I don't think I need a sword anymore. Hold on, I need to put my props away. All right, I'm ready. Different zone.
All right. So thunder magic is this English term that refers to a set of ritual practices that originated in and around what is today the People's Republic of China, and it started from much earlier things, but what we're going to talk about is the time period when it's really formalized. It starts to be like written down and tied to particular religious sects. And usually what we're talking about here are understood today as Taoist sects. But although that's not necessarily a historically accurate label to place on them because they didn't necessarily think of themselves as that.
Something people described later that we can kind of retroactively think of. Okay.
Right.
But so when you say this is when it started to get formalized. Yeah. Like
this is the Song Dynasty, China, is the time period we're talking about from 960 AD to 1279 AD.
Okay. And like how long this would like in theory, is this like 1,000-year-old tradition at this point? Is this 100-year-old tradition at this point?
I think it's really hard to
because it evolved out of a lot of things.
Right. I think it's really hard to say when it actually starts. There are what I've found in my research are people making arguments that this is sort of the predecessor to that, but I mean it could seemingly go back thousands of years.
Okay, cool.
So the Song Dynasty is a time period when the Song Empire ruled much of the eastern part of what we today know as the People's Republic of China.
Okay.
And the events.
And can you contextualize that time period for us at all? What's going on in the rest of the world?
Well,
did I jump on your next sentence?
Around that time period,
Nick loves it when I do this.
Around that time period would be our last episode. Heian, the Heian period in Japan is roughly about the same time. I think we talked about folks who are around 900
the world's first
to
novels
1000
are coming out.
AD. Yeah, right. And in fact, we know that China is a major influence on Japan from our last episode, and Europe is in its Middle Ages period. Remember, we talked about Marjorie Kemp, which is actually after this. That would be the 1300s and 1400s. So this is quite old. It's about 1,000 years ago. All right, so let's talk about this formalization process. Historian Florian Reiter points to the Song Dynasty as the time period when thunder magic thrived and was formalized and recorded in previously unprecedented ways. So we've got these documents from this time period when people were producing instructions on how to do thunder magic, essentially. And one of the biggest...
I really want a how-to thunder magic booklet. Like, honestly, I'm not even trying to open it, but just, like, having that cover sounds really fun.
I mean, you can get them right now. So, one of the biggest contributors to the flourishing of thunder magic was a ritual master known as Wang Wenqing. We're going to talk about him a bit. Wang Wenqing served under Emperor Huizong, and Huizong was emperor from 1100 to 1126 AD. And in 1126 AD, the emperor abdicated his throne on the advice of Wang Wenqing.
Very influential man.
I mean, you can see right there, Wang Wenqing was a powerful man, and he was powerful because of his thunder magic.
Yeah. I'm now totally distracted and want to talk about the emperor, but trying to recenter.
Okay, so scholar of religion Carmen Meinert writes, "For a short moment in history, our ritual master Wang Wenqing stood at center stage of the Song Empire and was able to have his expression of the thunder rite exorcistic rituals promoted through imperial patronage. Moreover, Wang's close interaction with the secular administration demonstrates his intermediary position between the profane and the transcendent spheres of reality."
Fascinating.
Yeah, so he sits at like the center of life on Earth, or governance of life on Earth, and also the bureaucracy of the heavens.
You don't hear a lot about the bureaucracy of the heavens in particular.
You do when you look into religious or philosophical texts in Asia, actually.
Huh. They want to really think about how heavens run? Like,
yeah,
logistically?
I found a lot of information about...
Wow, that's really culturally fascinating.
It was, yeah.
Like, I would love to... wow, that's really interesting. I'm like, I need to learn more about, like, culturally how that, like, how people think of and interact that. That sounds cool.
So that historian I mentioned, Florian Reiter, he has a translation of a biography of Wang Wenqing that was written a couple of centuries after Wang Wenqing died.
Okay.
And according to this story, Wang was born in 1093 AD. His family lived in the Jiangxi province, which is today in Eastern People's Republic of China. And the story describes Wang as a bright boy who writes and says profound things that impress his father. And here's how Wang Wenqing's father is described in the story.
Okay.
This is the father. His will was purely set on cultivating an unadorned way of life. He did not strive for fame and material profit, but kept himself away from the bustle and toil of the world. He always took pleasure in most extensive travels to reach magic regions and superb places. Following toilsome paths clad in cloth and equipped with a bamboo walking stick, he roamed afar throughout the world.
This is the father.
This is the father, who seems to be coming from an almost like ascetic,
Yeah, like very minimalist, like...
Right, we talked about Saint Jerome and asceticism. Yeah, he
like
seems...
not quite... I didn't quite hear self-flagellation in that, but definitely a very, like, keep your life as simple and focused as possible.
And, I think that message comes out in other writings from this time period, from these same figures, right? They're going to argue for the cultivation of a good life, and often part of that is not being excessively materialistic.
Interesting. Okay, very cool. So this is who he's being raised by.
Right. So one day, Wang Wenqing tells his father about this dream he had, and in the dream, a huge python was laying on the ground, and before he could step on its head, the snake rose up into the sky above. So his father takes this as a sign that his son is ready to carry on his own spiritual path. So, presumably, he teaches his son his ways, and Wang Wenqing begins his own wandering philosophical life.
Okay, so you are no longer just the child, you are now the young pilgrim kind of thing.
And off on his own, he encounters a stranger near the Yangtze River.
Okay.
And the stranger trusted Wang Wenqing with methods to communicate with the god emperors above.
Ooh.
And he also gave him documents which were used to shout out orders for wind and thunder.
So here comes the bureaucracy of the heavens.
Right. Well, and
It's like you have to like appeal with the right like report to the right emperor.
Exactly.
Ooh,
So
this is fun.
so very much that, yes.
Oh wow. So
Okay.
like someone who's a really good project manager and like knows all like the fine print of like who gets what form could be a good thunder magicer.
I mean, thunder magic can be quite meticulous and require quite a bit of like organizational abilities to actually do it. You know, I could definitely see that.
Do people also like specialize in that then? Like they only speak to one emperor god and like
Sure, yeah.
one like path of thunder magic?
Yeah, that's exactly the kinds of things that we're talking about, right?
Okay.
There is this heaven
Mhm.
or the heavens where God emperors, deities, whatever, however we're going to translate these things into English, um, and
I
people
did like the
appeal,
emperor god
people
because it
appeal
like
or petition them.
yeah.
Is what we'll see here in a moment.
Okay.
Anyway, back to the story. So he gets these documents, which were used to shout out orders for wind and thunder, and you know he starts to use these things to great effect. These tools that he's been given, and so he gains great power. So let me read again from Florian Reiter's translation. Wang Wenqing always picked the right time in order to send off petitions, to visit the god emperors in silent meditation, to summon thunders, to pray for rain, to drive away or call in wind and clouds. When it had rained a long time, he prayed for a clear sky, and the sky cleared up immediately. When in deep winter he prayed for snow, snow crystals emerged, drifting in the void. Eventually, when evil spirits caused harm amongst people, he dispatched divine generals in order to chase and control the spirits. He effected complete pacification all around. He never made much ado and did not celebrate with verses and wine.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie. Back to the original. What do you think of thunder magic?
Mm-hmm.
I still imagine this guy kind of storming in places and like shouting these petitions, but it sounds like it's more of a silent meditation kind of thing.
Well, but I mean, at the same time, he is controlling.
Yes,
the
but
weather,
like
so
you aren't like watching him like let it snow, or you know what I mean?
Oh,
like
yeah, he's probably
he's
not
sitting there silently.
There's not lightning coming out of his hands.
Meditating,
no. Right?
Is the like
and
actual ritual.
And
part
there's
of
been
it.
quite a bit of preparation before any of this happens, right? He's crafted his petitions and things to bring to it.
Seriously though, my new version of what is thunder magic is let it snow.
Let it snow.
Let it lightning. Let it thunder down all around. Okay, this is probably culturally inappropriate. I'm going to stop now. The other thing I heard in that reading, in addition to reimagining my silent meditative version of thunder magic, is he always picked the right time.
Yeah.
And so I'm starting to get that theme too, where that bureaucracy part comes in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is like also like you have to catch God in a good mood.
Well, and you have to have a relationship with these people in order for the magic to work, right?
So you go ask Boss, because Boss ain't gonna listen to me, because
absolutely
didn't get along on that project.
I mean, we're finding out that the gods really do respond to Wang Wenqing, but they definitely wouldn't respond to me.
Interesting. That's quite the godly barrier.
So here's another translation. A younger brother of the emperor, acting as investigation commissioner, made a tour of patrol and reached the commandery Caillou, where he fell ill. So the brother is out on official business and he gets sick. There was not any medical help available for him that would have been effective. Then he met the gentleman, Wang Wenqing, and asked for amulet water. Amulet water, or as I've heard it called fu water, is a type of cure that was used, and it involves.
Was it like often stored? They had it on hand in an amulet.
Well, no, it's amulets are not necessarily jewelry. They are they're meant to be worn often, but they're not necessarily like made of gold or something. It might just be like a piece of paper.
Oh, I was actually thinking like a glass vial kind of thing.
So it's often like a piece of paper has been like put inside of water, but the piece of paper has like
pre-blessed.
It's got some symbol drawn on it that is the petition like, health or something might be on the thing.
So when you're meditating, it's like you're stocking your game satchel kind of thing, of like you're preparing all the items to use out on your quest.
Potentially, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so the Emperor's brother meets Wang Wenqing and asks for this water, and he gets it from him, and his illness is cured. So the gentleman first concealed his name until he insistently was being asked to reveal himself, and so it was known that he was Wang Wenqing. Having returned to the court, the investigation commissioner, the brother, first of all made a memorial about the extraordinary event of this encounter with the immortal, which is telling us a little bit about this group of religious figures in China at this time. That, we're often talking about this as Taoism now, but they were very interested in immortality.
Okay.
So in order, to be called immortal was
less literal and more the highest compliment. Is that what you mean?
It's hard to really say, because these are ancient texts and potentially just legends, but
what you're saying, this isn't clear as day back then.
No, it's not clear as day what this means exactly, but yes, I think we can think of it as immortalized in the heavens, like, because as we'll see later, Wang Wenqing has been immortalized in the heavens.
I see. Okay.
So word gets back to the emperor that Wang Wenqing is a great healer, and so the emperor summoned him to be a ritual master in the imperial court. This is the beginning of them working together. And the biography tells us that the emperor gave Wang all kinds of lavish gifts, but Wang simply refused to accept any of them. He's got that kind of asceticism streak to him. So later in the biography, we learn that the emperor asked Wang Wenqing whether there were evil spirits in his palace. And he confirmed that there was an evil spirit in the southeastern corner of the palace.
Very specific.
Yes, very specific. According to the biography, in order to get rid of it, Wang wrote out a sealing talisman. So this talisman that would allow him to seal off to capture and whatever this spirit.
I first read it as like sealing with a C, and I was like,
oh,
very specific again. Okay,
right. So he had someone place the talisman on the surface of the water near the rear palace gate. Okay. So again, we're seeing this like crafting this talisman or
using our elements,
and then putting it into the water. And Wang explained to the emperor, in your mind, you await the after effects of this procedure. So there's nothing fantastical that happens the moment he goes in there. Now he just waits.
So the emperor also was waiting for someone to storm in, shouting for thunder.
Possibly.
Be told to like, all right, chill, dude.
I know it's called thunder magic.
More like a mousetrap kind of thing.
So someone announced that the talisman had been absorbed into the water, and Wang Wenqing then told the emperor, after some time, thunder shall clap, but His Majesty must not be frightened. So this is going to be the sound of the thunder, and that's the magical appeal being answered by the gods.
I want so badly for you to insert thunder sound effects, but that's, again, probably not in the spirit of things.
So after an undisclosed amount of time, a bolt of lightning split the cinnamon tree near the southeastern corner of the palace.
Y'all, Nick doing sound effects really should be on video.
Alright, so the lightning bolt killed one big python by splitting it into two. The biography states, the emperor showed excessive happiness.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, that is literally controlling the thunder and lightning, right?
Came right down and took out that evil spirit made flesh.
Yeah, so let me tell you another time that Wang Wenqing impressed the emperor. One of his first tasks was to get rid of an infestation of fox demons.
Okay. So I'm seeing a lot of the bad spirits are in the physical form of animals. Is that...
I'm not sure I'm seeing a lot of it, but...
Okay, well, there was only two. There was python and foxes, so...
Oh, I think that was a literal python.
Okay, cool. Well, I guess that's what I was saying. Are these literal foxes that we're about to kill is what I was expecting. That the
I don't
demons
think
were
so.
in foxes.
I think these
Okay.
are. I'm not
I get
entirely
caught up
sure
in
what
the
they're
details.
supposed to be honest with you. So one of his first tasks was to get rid of this infestation of fox demons. Based on the way he gets rid of them, I don't think there's any like actual killing of physical fox bodies. Anyway, no foxes were harmed in the making of this.
Pythons?
Right. So these foxes were reportedly stealing things like dishes, tools, and jewels. Did I say these pythons? I meant to say these foxes.
I don't know. I was too busy imagining actual fox demons like running through the rooms and stealing them, and it was really fun.
These foxes were reportedly stealing things like dishes, tools, and jewels. And they were causing people to get turned around and lost in the palace. So
Because they were so cute, they kept getting followed.
Maybe. So Wang Wenqing had an altar set up, and he performed a thunder ritual. He was so successful that the emperor decided to build a temple and other buildings on that very spot, dedicated to Wang Wenqing with a sign that read, Department of the Lord of Destiny.
Ooh, that is a good title!
That is an awesome title, isn't it?
Holy mackerel!
So he told Wang that he should come to the temple every few days to lead prayers and make offerings. So this is basically his new office. He's the...
Wow, so he very quickly went from, like, a wanderer helping a dude he found with a healing thing to, like, a massive department head in the government.
Head of the department of the... I guess he is the Lord of Destiny, right? I mean, like, this
literal
is,
Lord
this
of
is
Destiny.
his
It's
department.
quite the bureaucracy here in heaven on earth. Heaven and earth.
All right. So later in the biography, the emperor is told that there's a drought in Yangzhou, and he asks Wang Wenqing to intervene. And Wenqing asked for someone to bring him a sword, water, and a basin. And
Finally a sword.
He drank some water, spit it out, and said this prayer. The Emperor of the Great Song orders me to pray for rain. Rain must fall heavily and steadily, and wind must blow strong enough to bend trees. In Yangzhou, within 1,000 miles around, a soaking rain must fall everywhere to quench the need for water. Borrow 3 units of water from the Yellow River. The units are...
What?
Chi. I'm not really sure. Yeah, it's a very specific command. Borrow 3 large amounts of water from the Yellow River. Act most urgently, as this order says.
All right, you really got me with borrow 3 units of water. Now I'm like, wow, this is very...
It's very specific. So, offices from the surrounding regions reported back a few days later that rain had come, happily. They also reported that the rain was yellow and cloudy. And
it's the rain in the Yellow River.
Yes, exactly. So the emperor asked Wang Wenqing why the rain was yellow and cloudy, and Wang explained that the god emperors had attempted to use water from other rivers, but that they didn't have any available water. Only the Yellow River could be used. So hence the yellow, cloudy water. And according to the biography, the emperor was delighted with this explanation and said, "Divine indeed."
Divine indeed.
Divine indeed, yes.
So far, this is very fascinating, and I'm very much enjoying the Department of the Lord of Divine.
Lord of Destiny?
Dang, just can't get it right.
In the year 1126, Wang Wenqing sent a message to the gods on behalf of the emperor asking what he should do. Apparently the gods told Wang Wenqing that the emperor should resign. And Wang didn't want to deliver the message to the emperor, but he did so anyway, while sobbing and weeping. And the emperor took this very seriously. He resigned from the throne and took up the title Emperor Ruler of the Teachings and Lord of Tao.
Oh, okay. First of all, shocked. Second of all, why?
Why would he do that? Why would he?
Well, like, why do we even really understand why the gods were like, no, you're done, other than he wouldn't let him go home to his family? Are we making a causal connection there?
I mean, this is a time of
we're not connecting those two events.
And famine. I haven't really contextualized it for you.
Okay.
Well, but yes, I mean,
he was
he's
under
pressure. That I really don't know.
Okay.
All I know for sure is that he was under pressure, military pressure in particular.
Okay. Well, I have quite the dramatization of like what telling the emperor to resign via the gods while sobbing and weeping looks like.
Well, go ahead and do it.
Very intense. No, thank you.
You said you had it.
I know. I'm saying it in my head. I'm like, it's playing in there, the movie. Wow. But then also, okay, so he resigned, but that was quite the next title he gave himself. Please explain.
So he resigned as the emperor of the mundane world, and it took up a position in the heavens.
Oh, so wait. Did the gods give him a promotion?
I guess so. I mean,
the gods are actually like, resign here, buddy, because you are now.
Because you can.
You went from state to federal, like, positions. You know, kind of in retrospect. You know, you went from the local government to the higher government.
I mean, I think that's kind of how one can see it for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
took me a while to get there.
In the year 1153 AD, according to that biography that I've been telling you about, Wang Wenqing said goodbye to his friends and wrote an ode for his casket. Here's what that ode said, or here's Florian Reiter's translation. This my body is illusionary, and the pine planks of my coffin are not real. They are a secure cage in the eyes of common folks, but I escape the red dust of the world. So he then went into hiding at the hall for refining the elixir. So the elixir being the elixir of immortality. And then one thunderclap was heard, and he transformed or died, however you want to look at it.
Fascinating.
And so he remains
within
this tradition.
He too got a promotion.
Yes. So within this tradition, he's transformed and joins the ranks of the gods, particularly as a thunder god or a thunder general.
So the next thunder practitioners can appeal directly to him.
Absolutely. So in another article, historian Florian Reiter notes that a couple hundred years after his death, Wang Wenqing is deified in this ritual instruction manual that Florian Reiter looks at. And in that text, users of thunder magic were told to appeal to Wang Wenqing to help strengthen their magic.
So it's kind of saint-like in its how it functions religiously.
Absolutely.
Speaking.
I mean, I think there's lots of parallels there. Yeah. Okay, so now that I've given you this brief introduction to the history and legends, I thought it was pretty brief. So now that I've given you this semi-brief introduction, I want to talk specifically about how thunder magic is used.
Yay!
In the case of possession by a spirit or demon.
Okay.
So we've been talking about this in other episodes. For example, in episode 2, we talked about how Jesus Christ exorcised demons through radical love. And in episode 5, we talked about an approach from Japan's Heian period, in which the possessing spirit was forced out of the person and into a medium who then spoke on behalf of the spirit. Thunder magic is a different approach.
Also, exorcism via iron-willed meanness.
Hilarion.
Yeah.
Yes, we also saw that. So in order to talk about thunder magic and exorcism, I'm going to do something a little bit different than what we've done in past episodes. I'm going to introduce you to a contemporary thunder magic master.
Ooh, yay!
Okay, so his name is G. Sifu.
Okay.
And he happens to have his own podcast called The Taoist Magic Talk Show.
Okay.
And G. Sifu is...
Check it out.
Right. G. Sifu is part of the Tinyat Dragon Temple. And he tells us that he and his school or lineage specialize in exorcism and spiritual healing.
Okay. So we're going to talk about the common one, but we are thinking this is at least, some evolved form of generally the same kind of ritualistic ways of exercising.
Yeah, I mean, he is part of this tradition that has been handed down for centuries and has a long, rich history.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, so...
definitely. What's his podcast name again?
The Taoist Magic Talk Show.
Very cool.
So he has a number of. So I watched it. I watched it on YouTube. I think you can also find it on other platforms. But so he has this series of videos on YouTube about Taoist exorcism, and in one of these videos, Sifu explains his views on spirits. So he says that spirits are forms of energy. They are inherently harmful,
Okay.
though they lack power.
Okay. So the danger is giving them power. I'm extrapolating.
Well,
Continue.
The danger is more that they would be left that they would multiply or something and be left unchecked or something. So, in fact, according to G. Sifu, most of the time we're protected from evil spirits by our own energy fields that we naturally emit.
Okay.
So this view of spirits is different from the other traditions that we've talked about so far. Specifically, Sifu says there's no reason to argue or negotiate with spirits.
Okay, so very much unlike the Heian version where we needed to hear them out and also treat the demon.
Right.
Not at all.
Or Hilarion fighting with the demon, talking to him saying, hey, you, that doesn't make any sense according to Sifu. In fact, he laughs at it.
And we're thinking, I think that inherently calls them less, sentient and more just
Right, yeah.
Like they're more animalistic, just, they're going to eat you things you have to fight off.
More like viruses, perhaps, right?
Okay.
I mean, they don't have, they're not really acting on anything other than their one mission to replicate themselves.
Got it.
In the stories from the Christian tradition we talked about in episodes 2 and 3, Jesus Christ or Saint Hilarion argued or fought with demons. According to Taoist master G. Sifu, this approach to spirits is misguided. Spirits should simply be expelled. In addition, Sifu disagrees with the use of mediums in exorcism. So he says it's useless and dangerous to let spirits possess you.
I'm not gonna lie, that was kind of my feeling during a lot of the Aeon things. I'm like, I would like more assurance you're treating these mediums well.
Well, so he would probably not see that as a particularly good way of going about things. So this leads to a nuanced view of possession also. So in G. Sifu's view, possession doesn't mean a total loss of control. It means that it doesn't mean that the spirit or demon suddenly takes control and now speaks through us. Rather, the spirits begin to affect us in ways that really sound a lot like mental health symptoms.
It's more like that virus, analogy version of it starts to impact you. It doesn't just day one take you over.
Some of the maybe early signs of possession include things like fatigue, hopelessness, an unpleasant mood, feeling pressure or anxiety. So, we have the onset of some kind of mental health episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
A depression or panic attacks, perhaps.
I heard you too say that your energy generally protects you from these. So is it kind of thought that they exploit weakness?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So kind of the more one demon gets in, the more that barrier and aka hopelessness.
The more you're worn down in some way, whether it's physically or emotionally. So as the possession becomes...
And then if you don't expel those demons, they multiply.
Yes, and if the possession becomes more advanced, more and more of your senses and faculties come under the influence of the spirits. And so this is why you start to see or hear things that other people don't. This includes things like hearing meanings that other people don't intend, perhaps, or that other people don't hear.
Yeah.
For example, if your friend...
Every time Nick sighs and I'm like, why?
Yeah, when I'm trying to work on my heavy breathing and it makes you crazy. Yeah, that.
I'm like, what's wrong? What's wrong?
I'm just trying to exhale. So as it gets worse, these, could even become hallucinations as the spirits take on more and more control over your senses and your cognition. So Sifu also describes how as the possession becomes more advanced, you start to have a feeling of dissociation, like you're no longer fully in control of what you're doing or what's happening to you.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So very parallel to a lot of diagnoses and
Absolutely.
symptoms we would talk about, you know, the spectrum from depression up through schizophrenia and the disassociation. All those pieces are very similar to how this is being attributed to spirits. Negatives. Well, just spirits, because all of them are negative.
Right. So let's say you are possessed by spirits. With thunder magic, you have actually a lot of options for dealing with a spirit possession. But I'm going to say there's like two general approaches. One is that you can try to use thunder magic on yourself and expel the spirits yourself. Or you can call on some kind of ritual master to perform an exorcism on you.
Okay.
And for example, if you watch or listen to G. Sifu, he invites listeners and viewers to contact him in the event of a spiritual emergency so that he can perform rituals over video call.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah.
So then, are we going to talk about what that actual ritual would look like?
Yep, we are. So some practitioners of Taoism still use thunder magic, and I wanted to play for you a description of thunder magic by a content creator and writer named Benabel Wen.
Okay.
She's done a lot of interesting videos and content on Taoist magic. And in her video, Wen explains that thunder magic involves both following highly intricate rituals as well as taking the time to cultivate relationships with the appropriate deities. So in this clip, she talks about Lei Fa, and that's the Chinese word for thunder magic or thunder rites. So I'm going to play this for you.
There's typically a lot of ceremonial bells and whistles involved. This is how you pace through the Big Dipper or Luo Su magic square during ritual. This is how you do hand mudras. This is how you use the bakwa, what you gotta wear, how you gotta speak, astrology, alchemy, numerology, meditation, summonings, petitions, mantras, scriptures, blah, blah, and blah. Leifa is really not for the lazy witch, but it's pretty badass. So if you endure the often strenuous cultivation process, you will find that it's not just about craft, but life. It really fortifies you with the powers to conquer life's challenges.
What did that just say? It's not for the lazy witch?
It's not for the lazy witch. Yeah.
That is a great description.
It is.
But I get that. So like, that's where you would say a lot of the mental health piece comes in. Is that like it forces a lot of discipline and self-reflection, meditation.
Yeah, I mean,
mindfulness things.
I think especially if you're the one trying to do your own magic, then especially you're going through those cultivation practices. I'm not sure that G. Sifu would just accept you as a
practitioner,
patient, or something if you weren't also going to try to become part. He's going to
try to do some of your own work in that.
He's probably going to heal you by doing your own work in these areas, right?
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not just that you have to follow these intricate rituals, right? You also have to have a relationship with the gods that you're appealing to. If the gods don't know you or don't like you, then your thunder magic will have no power. So, for example, if you want to ask Wang Wenqing, thunder god, to drop some thunder magic for you, you have to be friends with him first, and you do that through spiritual learning, meditation, and other cultivation techniques. This is the essence of thunder god, or this is the essence of thunder magic, petitioning the gods to assist the user in some way. Whether, how, and to what extent your petition is granted has a lot to do with both your mastery of the ritual craft and also your relationship with the gods. So thunder magic involves asking the gods to do something, and the practitioner is going to send instructions through chants, talismans, hand signs, and other things. So we're going to talk about this process of petitioning the gods. And one way that you do this is through incantations or spells or chants. And I want to play for you a recording of G. Sifu, a real live Taoist master, doing a spell. So the spell Sifu is going to do is called the Golden Light Spell. And according to Sifu, this spell works by focusing or concentrating your light energy into a tight beam. And this has many possible uses, and one of those uses is exorcism. So here's what it says on the Tinyat Dragon website. If an evil spirit possesses someone, you can blast the golden light at them, and the evils would be immediately forced out of the body. The golden light shielding this person would also prevent the evils from returning.
Oh, okay.
So, let us listen to Jisifu.
Some know how the golden light burns and burns it always bright. Magic power, the sky and the ground, through the rhythms and goes to me. From that all the heavens see, something above, blessings down, radiate over my crown. Ghosts will fear and evil's gone. Thunder comes and lightning strike. Cook my heart and make it strong. Brave and bold, some know in me. Some know how the God I see. Oh, devils, here I go. Crush you to dust and out I blow. You and more, here you go. Burn and rose out I throw. Some know how golden eye. Oh, is bright, big and bold. Give me you and a
Wow. Wow, it's interesting how like literal it is in that sense. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the like.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just gonna say it like.
it's
Burn
both.
out a light.
It's
gonna
both
burn bright.
literal. I mean, but it's also not in the
Yeah.
sense that it's talking about things like a river that flows through you, which is, you know, presumably not a literal river, but a channel of energy or something. Yeah, which I mean, I think it takes awareness of your own body.
Well, and it does sound like a lot of like, you know, it has that kind of like repetitive like, you know,
soothing
Yeah.
quality to it. Yeah, it gets
that
your
helps you like focus on yourself and all this.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. Get you to
I didn't
focus.
describe that well, but
Get you to focus on different parts of your body. Envision that river flowing through your body. Now I want to dig deep into the mental health implications of the thunder magic. So I think there are at least two types of benefits, and in our other episodes we've talked about the benefits to a person who's being acted on by a priest or exorcist or someone powerful. So, for example, in this case, a master like Jisifu might use thunder magic to exorcise spirits from someone else, someone like me. But what I found most interesting about thunder magic was the range of mental health benefits it seems to have for the person who's practicing thunder magic.
interesting. Okay.
So the cultivation necessary to like understand and do thunder magic requires a person to engage in a lot of meditation and visualization and self-learning. So we can think of preparing our magic as fortifying ourselves mentally and emotionally for struggles that we might face. So thinking about those struggles, visualizing ourselves accomplishing our goals with the helps of the gods that we've built relationships with. And one of the things I found especially interesting was when I heard Jisifu talk about children's imaginary friends and the relationships they've developed with them.
Ooh, interesting.
Jisifu says that children's imaginary friends are gods, and they may very well help them do things they couldn't do on their own, and that's what gods do, right?
That is the coolest description of childhood imaginary friends I've ever heard.
Isn't it? So a child,
and like it speaks to what you were saying too about like the relationship and the power, right? Like how powerful in a kid's in however we want to describe it, the metaphysical nature of this, but like the importance of relationships, what you pour into it, right? Like
Right.
that imaginary friend is more present and the whole family's life, the more that kid pours into like having that. That's interesting. That's just like that really. I think it's a fun way of putting into context all of these relationships we've been talking about.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like, and I really love the way that he makes it. A child who creates an imaginary friend has made themselves a stronger person through their relationship with this.
Often because they're working through loneliness or
Right.
boredom or
and so
just processing out.
They've done something magical.
Wow. All right. I need to go invest in some imaginary friends. I feel like that's pretty wonderful.
Yeah. All right. So that's all we have for this episode.
I think literally let's all go work on some imaginary friends as mental health care.
Absolutely.
It's a lot cheaper than therapy and sounds way more fun. No drop dead friends allowed. They're troublemakers.
You can appeal to Wang Wenqing if you'd like. So look out for our next episode in this season. In episode 7, we will reflect on these first 6 episodes, and we're going to think about the connections between our sense of wonder and our ability to handle mental health struggles collectively as a community. Until then, you can check out our website, neurodissent.com, where you can find source material from our talk today. Until next time, enjoy your imaginary friend.
Bye, everybody.